Welcome to episode 37 of the Perrysburg podcast. I'm your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. We're talking about the Perrysburg Riverwalk today. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. The Perrysburg podcast is an informational podcast for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. You can find the show notes and the sign up for the weekly newsletter for this podcast on perrysburgpodcast.com. Let's get started. What is the Perrysburg Riverwalk? It is a trail and it connects Orleans Park and Rapids Road along the Maumee River under the Perrysburg-Maumee Bridge. The first week of April is peak season for the Maumee River walleye run, and the Riverwalk is popular with fishermen, so that is why today's topic is the Riverwalk. Basic information first. How do you access the Perrysburg Riverwalk? My favorite way to access the Riverwalk is through Orleans Park parking lot. If you need an address for your GPS, I got you. It is 655 Maumee Western Reserve Road, and that's in Perrysburg, of course. Park your car at Orleans Park and head towards the paved path near the river. It's marked Riverwalk. Now, another safe spot is the parking lot off of Rapids Road. There is no street address for this parking lot because it's just a parking lot. There is no building there. But if you're a local, you'll understand when I say that this parking lot is behind Fort Meigs Battlefield. It's not in front of it on River Road. It is behind the fort, down the hill. Now, once you park, just head towards the paved path near the river. The Riverwalk is maybe a quarter mile in length. It's not very long. It is an asphalt paved trail, and fishermen use it for river access. But who else uses the Riverwalk? I do, of course, and I've seen plenty of walkers, runners, and bikers there too. And speaking of walkers, runners, and bikers, let me tell you a route that you might like to try if you want some exercise that involves hills. There are hills. Start at Orleans Park, get on the Riverwalk, and then head towards the fort. Once you clear the bridge, hang a left and take the short path that goes up the hill to the street. If you reach the fort, by the way, you went too far. Turn around, go up the hill. Now, once you're at the street level, cross the bridge and head towards Maumee. Now, if you cross the bridge when the walleye run is going on, which it is right now as I release this episode on April 5th of 2024, take a good look at the action in the river. During peak season for the walleye run, you'll see lots of fishermen on and in the water. Boats will be lined up in the middle of the river, usually one line on the left and one line on the right as you look down at the river. And fishermen will be standing almost shoulder to shoulder in the river or along the banks of the river, or both. Sometimes they're standing in the water, sometimes on the banks. Just depends on the day. Weekends seem to be much more crowded than the weekdays. Now, if you've never seen the walleye run, it is worth a trip to the bridge. Fishing is a sport, and you can be a spectator right there on the Perrysburg-Maumee Bridge. Once you've had a peek at the river and you get on the Maumee side, walk down the hill and under the bridge on the Maumee side. Then find the Maumee Riverwalk. It's a concrete sidewalk that ends at Sentinel Point. Again, this is on the Maumee side of the river, and Sentinel Point is east of the bridge. If you head west of the bridge, you'll eventually get to Sidecut Metro Park in Maumee. Back to the Maumee Riverwalk. It's a concrete sidewalk with several bench-style metal swings to sit on along the river so you can enjoy the view. Maumee did that path right. The Maumee Riverwalk to Sentinel Point is very scenic. Plus, you can spot Orleans Park, the Perrysburg Boat Club, and St. Rose Church from Sentinel Point. There are great views of Perrysburg from the Maumee side. Take a look. Once you're done looking around at Sentinel Point, turn around, head back to the bridge. Take the steep sidewalk back up to the street level there on the Maumee side. Then cross the bridge from Maumee back to Perrysburg. Orleans Park will be on your left. From the bridge, it's just a short walk back to the parking lot and your car. I have not calculated the mileage, but I'd say that this route is at least 1 mile long. If you're looking for a unique route to walk, run, or bike on, give this route a try. Back to the fishermen now. I've been trying to cover the parks that have river access for the Maumee River Walleye Run this spring. If you are a fisherman, I hope this episode helps you. Maybe you will have discovered a new fishing spot. There's a lot of great fishing in Perrysburg, from what I understand. From west to east, there's the Schroeder Farm Campground, Buttonwood Park, the Davis Overlook, access behind Fort Meigs Battlefield, the Riverwalk that we talked about today, and Orleans Park. To hear more about fishing the Maumee River Walleye Run in Perrysburg, check out episode 32 of this podcast with Brian Miller, my guest from MaumeeRiverWalleyeRun.com. He's got all the details. Now, if you're a prospective, new, or current Perrysburg, Ohio resident and you didn't know that the Riverwalk existed, check it out this spring. And if you're a visitor, possibly you're in town for the Total Eclipse of the Berg event this weekend, or you're visiting for another reason, like the Walleye Run or Zip the Berg in August. Welcome to Perrysburg and enjoy your visit. If you're a visitor, you should check out the Riverwalk too. That does it for this episode. Thank you for listening to episode 37 of the Perrysburg Podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode on perrysburgpodcast.com. In the show notes, you'll find the address for Orleans Park, just in case you want to park there and try the Perrysburg Riverwalk route that I mentioned. You'll also find a link to Fort Meigs Battlefield, episode 32 of this podcast featuring Brian Miller from MaumeeRiverWalleyeRun.com, the Total Eclipse of the Berg event, and more. If you know someone who might like to hear about the Perrysburg Riverwalk or needs access to the river for the Walleye Run, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode when it comes out. Next week, on April 12th, 2024, Lauren Rush from the city of Perrysburg will be on the show to talk about the Great American Cleanup. She needs volunteers, and she's got all the details you need to sign up, so join us next week for episode 38 of the Perrysburg Podcast. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next Friday.